hasn't been started since last Friday when the shelter in place started here. So what better way to start off today's video than with a good old 4-day cold start. Definitely smells good, that's for sure. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Everyone's having a great day today. So this is actually the third take of a video. I'm actually scrapping the original video idea, which was markups on the C8. Unless you guys really want to see that, I'm probably going to keep the video file somewhere, but I'm probably not going to upload it. Unless you guys really want to see that video where I talk about the C8 in depth and talk about the markups on that car and how what my opinions are on marking up on that C8. So today's video is going to be actually about the truck behind me. I thought you guys would like to have some sort of sport track related content during this time we're in a state mandated shutdown, or shelter in place, I guess is the more correct term for this, but lockdown. So today's video is going to be if I reset the sport track build and went all the way back to where the truck was in 2016, what would I do different? So this video is going to be, talking about everything from mod work to, how I would do things with the truck, and kind of just give you guys a roadmap to how I would have redone things if I were to start over. So let's start off with the truck itself. If I could start over again, to be honest, I don't know if I would have still gotten a sport track. I love my truck to death, and it's won me over the years more and more the more I've driven it. But part of me, when I was 16, I wasn't necessarily looking for a truck. This just popped up, and it was a really good deal, and I really do like the sport track stuff, so I was like, why not? Let's go. A lot of you guys know the original car I was looking at for the channel was a 2001 Accord Coupe with the C-Series engine, very similar engine that's shared with the NSX. So I was really hoping I could have gotten that, because that would have been a pretty cool car. I mean, obviously it was still automatic, which would have sucked. But at the end of the day, that was a really cool car. This is still really good. I love this truck to death. But at the end of the day, if I were looking at, in the world of trucks at least, I would have gotten something like a Silverado 1500 single cab, or an F-150, or even a Ram. I was actually considering Rams for a while. This was back when I, worshipped the Hemi motor and loved how it sounded. Well, the exception of Michael's car, obviously. One, because Michael's my friend, and two, because I actually like his Charger. All of you guys know Mopar isn't my thing anymore. I do love certain Dodges, like, the wacky stuff with the Durango RT and stuff like that. But anyway, I was considering Rams at one point, and I was looking at mid-sizes, S10s, Dakotas, all that stuff. The sport track was kind of low on the list for me at the time because I really wanted a single cab. The issue with that is single cabs aren't very practical for people that have multiple siblings or multiple kids. I have multiple siblings, obviously, because I'm 20. I don't have kids yet. I don't even have a girlfriend. I've been single for 2 years, so rip me. But the crew cab was kind of a necessity for me at the time, but I really didn't want one. So if I were, 16 again and I were going through this all again, I probably would have gotten something like a Silverado 1500 single cab, which is what I really wanted at the time. I really wanted a cat-eye Silverado single cab, very similar to what It's Just a Six has, his white truck. Granted, I probably would not be going as crazy as he is with that truck. That truck's about to be a monster. That's not what I would have gone for. It would have been a very similar build to what I have now, just obviously with a cat-eye single cab with the V8. But we're not here to talk about just the truck itself. We're going to talk about mine. So let's go back to the sport track. So if we were back in 2016 when the truck was bone stock, this truck, even though it had a crap ton of miles, it still has a crap ton of miles. 213K when I picked it up. It was completely bone stock, unmolested truck. I mean, obviously, it was a little rough around the edges because it was, driven by someone who wasn't necessarily the most versed in cars. That seems to be a very common thing for non-enthusiast owners of sport tracks, is they don't really have too much of a knowledge on cars. And the 4.0 is such a finicky engine to kind of, work with that I wouldn't recommend it for someone who's not an enthusiast of these trucks. Because maintaining one of these, while not impossible, is definitely a bit more of a challenge than something like a Civic or an Accord. So that's always been my recommendation. If they're not someone who's well versed in maintaining cars, don't get a 4.0 vehicle at all. Don't get the Mustang, don't get the trucks. Just stay away, because they're kind of they're a bit fickle. As I've learned, and as many of you guys who have these trucks have learned, they're definitely not the easiest cars to work on and maintain. They're a little finicky. But anyway, What would I do different? So first off, I'm going to talk about under the hood modifications, which I don't really have a whole lot. I've got ignition coil, I've got iridium spark plugs, and a cold air intake, that brings me to the first point. That cold air intake will be gone. A lot of people have asked me, and that video got tons of views on the Spec D Intake my truck currently has on it. A lot of you guys may not have known this, but if you guys remember a couple years ago, my truck was misfiring and I couldn't figure it out for months. What it turned out to be was that crappy intake. The filter that was included in the kit was junk, and it was not sealed properly. You could literally grab it by the coupler and spin it, which you shouldn't be able to do. So it was the main cause of my misfire, and it was awful. And I was so just annoyed with myself because I replaced spark plugs, ignition coils. I was worried about compression loss at that point, and then I changed an air filter out, and then all of a sudden, fine. At the end of the day, though, the Spec D Intake is just garbage. I would not recommend it to anyone with a sport track. If you're going to get one, get a Spec D, get something actually quality, because not only did this thing cause my misfire, but the tubing's smaller. The tubing is literally smaller than the throttle body, so it's not only causing misfires, poor quality build, but it's also robbing horsepower. So if you guys are wanting to make good power on a naturally aspirated sport track, don't take that intake. I would say my truck's a pretty good example of how, to build a naturally aspirated truck for power. Obviously better spark plugs, better ignition coil, better plug wires, which I don't really have those either. I'm still running Duralast wires. Full exhaust, all that kind of stuff. So don't go with the Spec D Intake. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about is cosmetically. Obviously you guys know my truck's not the best in cosmetics because of the bumper scrape and the dent in the tailgate and all that crap. The tiny bits of rust it has on the body, not on the chassis. The chassis is clean, but there's a couple spots in the body, mainly on the door. I believe there's a spot on one spot in the back of the cab that's got a small rust spot on it. So I mean, the truck's not 100% perfect, but it is, I would say it's good for a 240,000 mile truck. I've seen a lot of 240,000 mile trucks and in much worse shape than mine. The headlights. I've done a standalone video on this before, the black housing headlights. I would stay away from them. Not completely, but I would do is if you're wanting to just get them and just run them like I did, don't get them because they're just garbage. They look great when they're new. And then as soon as they age and the crappy clear coat comes into effect and the crappy sealing these things have come into effect, they get ruined. No matter how much you spend on a black set of lights with these trucks, you're going to get garbage quality because, as I said in the last video, they're really outsourced parts. They're not all. It's not like each company's making a different light. It's one company that is outsourcing it, and they're all selling it for how much they want to. So that's why I recommend you re-clear coat them, reseal them when you get them, just to make sure that you get the maximum life out of these lights. Because if you don't, they're going to turn into mine, and mine are garbage. So I would have, if I had known that at the beginning when I first got those, I would have done that. I would have resealed them and re-clear coated them, so I wouldn't be looking at a yellowed out passenger light that's been on the truck for only about 3 years. From there, we'll talk about exhaust setups, which I would not change. This is one of the things I would not change because I currently love my current exhaust setup, my short tube headers, my X-Pipe, my MagnaFlow Race Series. As you guys saw, I got absolutely demolished in the industry because it's too ricey and it sounds like a V6, which was kind of the point. I'm not going to go into that long rant again, but I wouldn't do anything different. I'm filming this right now. I'm looking down right here at my Flowmaster setup that literally came off the truck just about a week or two ago. And I don't miss it. I loved the Flowmaster, it was great, but I prefer what I have now, which is a much better sound to me. It may be loud, but it's exactly what I was looking for in terms of tone. The rasp is a little bit much, but that's really about it. So that's one thing I wouldn't change. On the interior side, a lot of you guys know I put racing seats in the truck, and and now that I've had them for almost a year, I would not go with those specific seats. I would have put racing seats in the truck if I were to start this over again because I really do enjoy the modification, but those seats are just poor quality. One of the bolsters broke on them about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. I literally was just getting in the truck, sat down, I was getting out of the truck at AutoZone and it was just without warning. The bolstering is very tight. I mean, it's definitely meant for someone who's really, really skinny. Like even Hayden, who's very healthy and rather skinny himself, can't fit in these seats comfortably. He will tell you very quickly he hates those seats, and he wishes I would have put the stock seats back in it, which I technically still could if I wanted to, but I really don't, because I really still like the look of the seats. I still like how they hold me in. I couldn't go back to stock seats after this. But I wouldn't have gone with those seats. I would have gotten something better quality, like a true Recaro or Sparco or something like that, or maybe even Corbo, because I haven't heard the greatest things about Corbo, but I've heard, you know, they're obviously better than eBay. So I definitely would not have gone with those specific seats, but I would have still gotten seats for the truck anyway. The center console swap, again, something I would not change. I actually prefer the current console I have over the actual Sport Trac console. I believe I have more cup holders than the Sport Trac console had, possibly. I prefer the carpeted cubbies at the front rather than like the rubberized stuff that the Sport Trac console had. I prefer even just the glove box itself a little bit more. I mean, all in all, it's just preference things for me. A lot of the trucks already had the foldings. Mine didn't. I don't know if you guys know, mine's an XLS, so I didn't have a full-length console or keyless entry for that matter. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything about the center console. I think I'm happy with what I went with. So that's probably something that I would have done anyway down the road. Except I probably would have gone for the digital information center, which is a very hard thing to find because they're only put on one trim of the Explorer back in the 90s, which was the Explorer Limited. And then even then I'd have to wire it up myself, which would be a huge pain because I don't know how to wire stuff, but my dad does. So it may not have been the end of the world, but that's what I originally really wanted to do. But I wound up just getting a standard console and doing what I've done. Radio would have stayed, nothing different there. I really like my XAV AX100. I probably would have gone straight to a touchscreen though. The route I went down, I went to a single DIN Bluetooth radio, which is now in Hayden's truck actually. I gave that to him right after I swapped the XAV, which was literally just the quickest thing ever. It was just, we plugged it into his truck, swapped the dash kit over, and he was ready. Because the Ranger and the Sport Trac are so similar. I would have kept the XAV. AX100 is great. Well, it's the best radio I've ever gotten to use. I've used a lot of radios in cars. I mean, the Kia behind me, which I don't know if you guys can see very well, has had multiple radios in it, and by far the double DIN touchscreen stuff was my favorite. That's what I wanted to go from the beginning. So I probably would have just saved up a little bit more and spent a little bit more money on getting the radio that I originally wanted. Instead of going the route I did, I've spent probably close to about $400, $500 in just radios on that truck, and just over the two radios I did buy. Let's see, interior stuff wise, I think that's about it. Everything else would have probably stayed the same. I would have gotten the same steering wheel cover that I have now. I really like that steering wheel cover. I didn't even pay for that. That was a birthday gift, but I still would have done the overlay on the Ford logo because that was, you know, still gonna eventually crack and fall apart like I did, and that's why I replaced it with the carbon fiber one. I would have done LED bulbs in the gauge cluster, which I did not do. When I was doing, I believe, the push button start install, which I'll get into in a minute, I went ahead and just got new standard bulbs because they were cheap and I wouldn't have to wait for shipping on that because I wanted the truck to be back together, and my dad was not about pulling everything back apart, just put bulbs in the gauge cluster because mine were burnt out. A lot of my bulbs were burnt out when I got the truck, so that was something I needed to just pop in anyway. It was just like, I can get LEDs later when those bulbs go bad because they inevitably will because they're incandescents, and then I can get actual LEDs and all that stuff. But that's it for things here, I think. Let's go back to something a little bit different, which is the push button start. Honestly, this is what I'm always torn about because it's really cool. It's a very modern setup, and that video got tons of views, so it worked out great for the channel. But at the end of the day, is it that cool? I actually prefer something like a switchblade key, which is what cars like Volkswagen uses. My mom's Equinox has them. And I'm a fiddler, so I love to like fiddle around with like the keys, all that stuff, the switchblade keys. So I would have much rather had a switchblade key than this. But the issue is that ignition guard, which is, you know, a standard on these trucks, which is it's just grotesque to me. I don't like the stupid guard, but that's why I couldn't do a switchblade key because that exists. So I wound up just going ahead and doing the push button start, which I do love because I have remote start functionality, as I demonstrated at the beginning of this video. But at the end of the day, it was a bit of a pain to do. If you guys did watch the video of the install, it was literally a test of my patience, my dad's patience, and my dad's electrical skills. My dad's done a lot of electrical stuff, so that was a huge test for him, and he hated it. He said he was never doing it again if someone asked him to. Even if someone offered to pay him money, he wouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, that's one that I'm just kind of iffy on, so we'll just put that in the iffy category. I'm not sure if I would go back to it or if I would do something different. But I do like the push button start. It's a really cool feature that I have, and it's unique. A lot of people are just like, huh? Whenever I tell them it doesn't have a key to start it. Because I expect it to, because it's 2003. But I think it's a really cool feature. I really do like it. It's just, it was a pain in the butt to install, and I really prefer like switchblade keys, like fiddling around with switchblade keys. But anyway, the wheels. Now, this was actually a graduation gift, much like the Flowmaster was actually. When I graduated high school, my parents decided to shell out some money on some wheels for the truck, and that's where the motives came from. Now, I absolutely love the motives, and I'm not getting rid of them anytime soon. So that wouldn't change. What would change is the offset. The rear offset, well, granted, I was under the assumption it was going to fit flush. I was told that there was not going to be any sort of gaps or anything like what's actually gone on in my rear fitment. They were saying, yeah, it'll fit flush just like the old wheels did. I get the whack fitment my truck has now. Obviously, this can quickly be fixed with spacers, which is what I plan on running on the truck just to kind of clear that up. But as far as that goes, that'll be in the future. But yeah, that's like the one thing I would change with wheels is fitment. I have been actually contemplating plastic dipping them a different color just to kind of get an idea for what it would look like. I was thinking about Brass Monkey from Dodge's playbook, since they sell a plastic dip for that, just to kind of see what wheels would look like with a more brass finish. But anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap things up here. Well, yeah, the taillights, I still would have done that. I prefer the tinted taillight look. The LED conversion, I think I would have done. I think that's about everything that I wanted to bring up. So, like I said, guys, hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys on Friday. Stay safe out there. I'm doing my part staying home. Y'all stay home too. Keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, keep your friends safe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys on Friday. Have a good one, everyone.